My first job, my first job was that of a social worker at Catholic Charities. When I left Xavier, I came back home to Mobile. My intention had been to go to grad school at the University of South Alabama. But the reality was for me, I needed to work. And so I became a social worker at Catholic Charities in Mobile. And I initially focused on helping uh, Black babies find foster homes. And ultimately, I ended up in that role, learning all about the labor market and learning all about what it would take to get our kids off the streets and into meaningful employment. And so it is from that experience as a social worker with Catholic Charities that I really started to study the labor market and to try and figure out how I could help create job opportunities for the kids, primarily from the Roger Williams housing projects in Mobile. I got somewhat of a reputation for overcoming labor market barriers. And it was that work that brought Ray Marshall, who ultimately became Jimmy Carter's Secretary of Labor, to visit me and asked me did I think I could replicate this work in a different way with a different population. And so he helped me to start an initiative called the Minority Women's Employment Program. And I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. This time, rather than focusing in on apprenticeship jobs and young African American males, I focused in on women of color who had no professional or technical jobs in any major corporation, believe it or not, in the Deep South. And so I began an effort and started a program with Ray Marshall's support to place the first women of color ever in professional and technical jobs with companies like Delta Airlines in Atlanta, the Coca-Cola Company, the General Motors Company. And that work in Atlanta uh, got the attention of a young governor then by the name of Jimmy Carter. And when Jimmy Carter was elected president, he named Ray Marshall as his labor secretary. Ray Marshall, of course, had been interested in my work long before he became labor secretary. He was then the head of School of Economics at the University of Texas. And so Ray Marshall recommended me to Jimmy Carter to be the director of the Women's Bureau. And I always say the rest is history after that, because no matter what I have done in my career, it's always been about opening doors, overcoming barriers, making sure that we have an inclusive environment, particularly an inclusive labor market for all. And that followed me through my years as Secretary of Labor. And it's still the work that I advocate, particularly now in the boardrooms of corporate America.
You know, I call Secretary Herman Madam Chair, and I kind of toggle back and forth between Secretary Herman, Madam Chair. But if you notice, both of those titles are ones that convey an enormous amount of respect. You know, I just have a tremendous amount of respect for her. She's done so much with Toyota to support our programs that build our diverse and inclusive culture, including supporting our various History Month programs such as Black History, our business practice groups, symposiums. But most importantly, what she's done is she's grasped the importance of Toyota's business, and she's taken her amazing business sense and merged it with the understanding of how a company like Toyota can and should provide opportunity to men, women, people of color, no matter what color, in every new Toyota manufacturing plant in the US over the last 20 years. She's been extremely valuable to Toyota, and starting from the very day when I started in 2007, she's just been this looming, positive presence for the company.
My relationship with Alexis has been for the last 14 years, where we've served together on the board of the Coca-Cola Company. Alexis has been an incredible advisor to me and friend. And when I have a difficult or complex thing that I have to issue or thing that I have to think about at the board, my first go-to person is Alexis, and her wisdom and advice has been invaluable to me.
For me, it was a very proud moment when I was voted the labor secretary, because in many ways, It was like going back home. I had been at the Labor Department at a very young age as the director of the Women's Bureau. I never envisioned I'd go back as Secretary of Labor. And so going back to that building, the Francis Perkins building, that I helped to name when I was the director of the Women's Bureau, and to now be walking in her footsteps as the secretary, it was a very proud moment for me.
Her commitment to the South, her commitment to Mississippi and our property and our people, as I'm sure her same commitment that has been to Alabama and the institutions that she represents there, is just, she's always present, she's always there, she's always willing to help and lend a helping hand. And so from the state of Mississippi, where she has a great deal of insight in how things work, she's been nothing but invaluable, and I suspect it's the same for Alabama.
So when I was first contacted that I was being inducted into the Alabama Hall of Fame, Business Hall of Fame, and especially as the first woman of color, oh, I just thought to myself how proud my mom, my dad would be just to know that such an honor and a recognition was being bestowed. Because for me, it really was at the end of the day all about them. And so for me, this is about my family. This is about my history. And this is about everyone who nurtured and loved me to enable me to have this honor.